fans, and welcome back to Get Me a Library. So today's book that I'm reviewing is a book called Lost Girl by Chandra Hahn. Wendy doesn't remember anything about Neverland or the experiments done to her there as a child. 7 years later, all she wants is a normal life. But shape-shifting shadows plague her dreams and turn her life into a waking nightmare. Shadows attack at a football game and a boy disappears right in front of her. She realises these wraith-like shadows are real. They're not just haunting, they're hunting. A mysterious boy named Peter, his foul sidekick, and a band of misfit boys intervene before Wendy faces a similar fate. But can they trust Wendy enough to take her to Neverwood Academy and reveal all their hidden secrets when she's hiding a secret of her own? Or will the dreaded Red Skulls find her and drag her back to Neverland? Ooh, exciting. So Chandra Hahn, a little bit of information about her. She created one of the best series that I've ever read. Obviously there are others, but hers isn't one of the top 5. She created a series called Unfortunate Fairy Tales, and within the books it just relates to sort of like the Brothers Grimm and how they created their stories and how it relates to modern day life. So for example, Red Riding Hood, she'll have to wear like a red hoodie. So it's basically stuff like that. So if you haven't read them, give them a go, and if you have, then I hope that you love them the same as me. If not, try something else that she's written, because I think she's an amazing author. Okay, so back to Lost Girl. So Lost Girl is based in a place called Neverland, which we know about with Peter Pan, but this Neverland is not like that Neverland. Now I've read other books where it talks about Peter Pan and Peter Pan being good and Peter Pan being bad, like Lost Boy that I did last week, but this Neverland is on the same wavelength as the other one, where it's not actually nice. It's not a place for you to never grow up and to be happy. It's a place of your nightmares, really, and that's what the other Neverland that I've read about. And I quite like that. I quite like that Neverland is in this amazing place, because even though you believe good things, not everything is always good. So within Neverland there's a place called Neverland Corpse, and this is where they experiment on children, giving them these secret superhuman powers. Wow. But they're not superhero powers, because these kids don't have a choice. They have to be experimented on, and it's not nice because they're drugged, they're drowsy, they're in pain. It's not nice for them. Some of the powers that they might get is flight, the ability to create fire and destruction. The point is, these kids aren't happy. And within these, well, this school slash hospital slash board house slash whatever you want to call it, there's doctors and there's nurses, but there are kids, and the kids aren't happy. And the doctors and nurses feel that they're doing something that they're supposed to do, it's their job, but then it gets to a point where the doctors and nurses aren't actually happy with what they're doing anymore. So it's all funded by these people called the Red Skulls, and the Red Skulls are preparing for something. They need this superhuman army, which is why they're experimenting on children. Maybe it's because they can allow them to believe different things, whereas if you're a grown-up you kind of know what's right and what's wrong, whereas although these kids know that what's happening to them isn't right, they don't know anything different, so that's all they know. I mean, I don't know whether they believe that they become like these doctors, I don't know, but the impression we get is they have no choice. They're all from like orphanages, or they've all just lost their families, so it's not really a very nice environment. This book's blurb gives you quite a lot away. It basically tells you about these shadows. So let's start talking about that. So in Neverland, this girl called Wendy, which is based on, the Wendy that we know and love is a different type of Wendy. She's the same character, she still has the whole Peter Pan backstory, but she's a different character. Wendy and the boys have these experiments on them, and Wendy, we're not quite sure what hers is yet. However, she can see shadows, and I don't know if other people can see the shadows. It's not really told, but I don't think they can. I think she's the only one that can see them other than Peter. Whereas everyone else, well, they can't see these shadows, but they have these other abilities. They're teaching these kids how to fly, and the only one that's mastered the ability to fly is Peter Pan, who Wendy calls Boy. So we don't know he's Peter Pan yet, so if that's a spoiler, I'm sorry, but it's not really a spoiler because the book actually says Peter Pan. I'm not going to tell you the reason why they leave Neverland. That is going to be a spoiler-free thing where you have to read it yourself. But 7 years later, Wendy does leave Neverland. And so Wendy's left, but 7 years later she has no idea where she was. She has no idea what Neverland is. Neverland to her could be just a fairy tale story, which is technically what Peter Pan is. But the point is, she doesn't know anything about Neverland, okay? She's never even heard of it before. So she was, spoiler, she was found by a lovely couple, the Darlings, and she has a brother called John. And he's very much like Wendy's brother in Peter Pan. And it's just them two, and she moves in and she lives with them and they look after her. But because she's a little bit crazy, because she could see these shadows, because she was just found, although it took a while for them to adopt her, when they finally got to adopt her, she went to a place called Wonderland, and Wonderland is like an institution kind of place to help her, because she keeps having like these night terrors and things, and they're a bit worried about her. And the night terrors that she's having is these shadows, which relates back to where we were a minute ago when we were talking about the shadows. With the sidekick, who is Peter Pan's sidekick? Come on, if it's not Wendy, who is Peter Pan's sidekick? It is Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell is his foul-mouthed sidekick, so she's pretty cool. She's like a punk fairy, but she's not a fairy, but that's a spoiler. But she's Tinkerbell and she's there, and she's feisty. She's feisty and she's sassy. More feisty, but she's there. Obviously we have the other boys within Peter Pan's Lost Boys. I've written them down so I get them all right. We've got a boy called Jax, who doesn't actually have a part in Peter Pan. I did search and I did Google Peter Pan's Lost Boys, and I did try to compare them to see which ones were which. So obviously Peter is Peter Pan and he's the leader and he's still called Peter Pan. Obviously Tinkerbell is in it and she is actually, well, we have a hint as to who she is, but I'm not going to tell you. But Tinkerbell is called Isabel, or Isabella, and that's where she gets the name Tinkerbell from. So yes, there's a boy, like I said, there's a boy called Jax, and he's quite mean, quite nice, good, bad. I like him. I think he's good. I think, well, he's not a good person. I don't know if he's a good person. I haven't got that far. I mean, there's another book. But I like him. I think he's good. To me, he's a good character. And then we've got John, okay, who's obviously Wendy's brother. We then have a boy called Teddy, who is in the beginning of the book. I'm not going to tell you if he reappears or if he doesn't reappear, but there's a boy called Teddy. There's a boy called Tootles, and we know who that is. He's one of Peter Pan's Lost Boys, and a boy called Slightly. And there are others as well. I mean, there's twins, because in Peter Pan's Lost Boys, he does have a twin. He does have a boy called Slightly and a boy called Tootles. And if you've ever watched Hook with Robin Williams, you see that Tootles has lost his marbles. Hey, marbles! So yeah, that's a little bit about where the characters relate, and I really like the way that they do that. I like when you relate to characters, and the characters that you know and love are real in another book, but there's a slight spin-off, and that was why I really like this book. It did have that spin-off to it. And there's other characters, like there's a doctor called S. Smee, so obviously that's Smee, and the Red Skulls, the captain of the Red Skulls, is called Hook. That's cool. And there are other characters as well. Nana's in it. Nana, the dog. Wow, Nana is cool in a bookshop. Yeah. And the guy who wrote Peter Pan in real life, there's a reference to him within the book, and he actually is writing the story of Peter Pan. So it's got a lot of real life elements to it, and it's also got a lot of the fairy tale, but it's also made up and it's got different parts to it, and it just creates this really, really cool story. I don't want to say too much, because within this book there is a lot of stuff that I can actually tell you that will just spoil the whole book for you, like lots of things that I'm thinking of right now. But the point of the whole story, to sum it up in a few sentences, we'll say a paragraph because I don't know if I can do a few sentences, but to sum the story up, Neverland is real, but no one knows about it other than these selected few doctors and obviously Peter Pan, his Lost Boys, and his foul-mouthed sidekick. Wendy can see shadows, and it's making her go a little bit crazy, or so people seem to think. Most of the Lost Boys have got powers. We don't really see too many of the powers, but a lot of them have got different types of powers, Haven't really seen if Tinkerbell's got one, but obviously Peter Pan can fly. One of the characters in Peter Pan's little group is actually, let's just call him Sneaky, and we'll keep it with that. And one of the last things about it is everything has been brought into our world now, and something is going to happen, or something has been planned, and it's been planned a long time ago, which is why the kids were being experimented on. And the Red Skulls are back, obviously, and they are on the hunt for Wendy, and it's because Wendy can see shadows. Well, I'm assuming anyway. And also there's this other thing as well. I forgot what they're called now, and it's not very good because I really should know. But let's just pretend I do know, and it's going to be a spoiler if I tell you. When the shadows appear, these horrible creatures appear, and these horrible creatures can actually kill you. If they cut you, they're venom, and it can hurt you, and you can die from it. And one of the boys does almost die from it as well, and Wendy manages to save the day. But the point is that when these shadows appear, it's because this creature is on its way, and that's the creature that they all fear. So yes, that's the end of the book review. Sorry it's a bit short, and sorry there's not a lot of spoilers, but I don't want to tell you too much. I've started to realise that if I tell you everything, you might as well just come here and read the book with me. But no, I'm doing a channel and I'm doing a video, so I can't give you too many spoilers, otherwise you won't watch it. So I will see you guys next week, and I hope that you liked the video, and if you did, let me know below, and ask me any questions that you like. Comparing the two books with last week and this week, but what do you think? Is Peter Pan actually better being bad and Captain Hook being good? Or is Peter Pan actually better being good and Captain Hook being bad? I personally don't know. I like Peter Pan being bad because it makes Captain Hook really good, and you actually feel sorry for him and you start to understand why he's been like that. But then on the other hand, I quite like Peter Pan being nice and taking you to Neverland and allowing you to never grow up and giving you anything you wanted. And Captain Hook being villain. I don't know. You decide and you let me know. See you next week. Bye.